Alrighty, so this might be the shortest news of the week episode I've ever done on my channel because, to be honest, there wasn't really a lot of news that happened in the past week because we're still in the midst of the September international break. And in fact, I actually debate whether or not should I actually do it or not because of so few news that has happened in this past week in MLS. But I thought, you know what, might as well just do it because there were definitely some interesting news that happened this week and in these past couple of days. But first of all, we had some contract extension from this week. Some of them are pretty big ones. That includes my team, Minnesota United, signing Emmanuel Reynoso to a long-term contract extension. I mean, this was obviously the most obvious thing that they need to do because Reynoso is basically Minnesota United, especially on the attack. And it was fear that, maybe he was going to be sold off to Europe. And there could be a case that he could still be sold off to Europe, but at least we have locked him to a long-term contract extension. And like I said, he's basically what make that attack goes, and that it's not a big surprise he is receiving a contract extension, and he's going to be with the team at least for 3 more years. And the same goes for the Philadelphia Union deciding to sign Alejandro Bedoya to a new contract extension. Now, no doubt, Alejandro Bedoya is definitely in his twilight of his soccer career, but there's no doubt that he is probably the heart and soul for this Union team, especially in the leadership department, because he is definitely a guy that definitely commands the team and control the locker room as much as what Jim Curtin does as a head coach. And that, for a leader like him, there was no surprise that the Union, of course, is decided to sign him to a new contract extension. And I did say that he has got to a point where it is his twilight of his career, but still he's still going strong. I mean, this season you wouldn't tell that he has lost a step or two, despite the fact that unfortunately I think he is still dealing with an injury issue. But when they have him back, I think that's going to give a huge boost for the Union in terms of their playoff push. And then, of course, the last contract extension happened to the Chicago Fire, who signed Miguel Navarro to a long-term contract extension. Now, this one is an interesting one because I remember, wasn't it beginning of the season, didn't they sign him to a long-term contract extension that goes to 2025? And that, from what I heard, this new long-term contract extension is now going to go to 2027. I mean, it's not every day you see a team decide to extend a player's contract extension to a longer term on the same season, as is the case for Miguel Navarro. But I guess that's what is kind of the case. And if you're a Fire fan, I'm not sure you're happy about that. I mean, Navarro hasn't been bad for the Fire, and that I think he's definitely play better than what I thought when they originally got him a couple of years ago. But certainly this is kind of a bit of a head scratcher of the fact that you already extend him to a certain year, and that now you're extending him longer, and that don't you just kind of waste some money out of that. But I guess that's, of course, is the move that they of course made. But now moving on to now talk about some other things that's not related to contract extension, is the big news that come out of this week, and that, of course, is El Trafico will indeed be played at the Rose Bowl on February 25th in 2023. So there's been a lot of rumors, the fact that, El Trafico, it seems like most likely it's going to be playing either at SoFi Stadium or at the Rose Bowl, and that indeed it seems like MLS have announced that it is going to be in the Rose Bowl. And what's also important about that date is that could be a hint of that being the first day of the brand new season, because usually nowadays in MLS the season starts in the last week of February, and it feels like it's going to happen again. Now, it's also going to be interesting to see whether or not, if this is indeed going to be the inaugural debut of Apple TV, as we see next season with Apple TV Plus being introduced in MLS. I think this would be a great way to do so, especially with the way that I always say that this rivalry is one of the best rivalry in the league, but in the media sense, they always hyped up this rivalry to a point where I think it's kind of justified, because when you look at a lot of these El Trafico games, man, it is just chaos after chaos after chaos. And now being played at the Rose Bowl and a chance to break the all-time attendance record for an MLS game. I mean, this could be the second year in a row we could see that, after earlier this season, Charlotte, of course, breaking that attendance record for their inaugural game. And since the Rose Bowl definitely have a higher capacity than Bank of America Stadium, there could be a case that we could have a 90,000 plus for an MLS game. And in some way, this also feels like it's kind of a homecoming for the LA Galaxy too, because you guys don't remember before the Galaxy of Horrors play in Dignity Health Sports Park and built one of the first soccer specific stadium around the country. They were playing at the Rose Bowl, so this is kind of a good memory, and that I think it's going to be interesting to see. Like I think it's also going to be interesting to see the jersey that they're going to release. I mean, they're going to have to release a jersey that is related to when they were first in the league. I mean, I know they released the community kit that reminiscent the team back in '96. I feel like they should do that again, or at least something similar like that. But either way, I mean, again, this should not be a big surprise that El Trafico is taking place at a bigger stadium. I mean, that definitely will help the fact that I think the cost will definitely be a little bit lower. I mean, one of the problem with El Trafico that I hear a lot of people say is that it's very expensive to attend, and I can attest that because there's been a couple of times I want to go to El Trafico, but the tickets prices are like $200, and that is just ridiculous for an MLS game, even if it means that it is one of the biggest rivalry in the league. So hopefully this will mean that the tickets will be a little bit cheaper, but also this is a good opportunity for more money being made in the game, because we have a 90,000 seat stadium and potentially have a sold out crowd there, compared to what you will get maybe like about 22,000 at Bank of America, or not Bank of America, but Bank of California Stadium, or just 27,000 at Dignity Health Sports Park. I can understand why they play this one at the Rose Bowl, though. I mean, something tells me I wish that this was played at SoFi Stadium, consider that is a stadium that it's been proven from those two League Cup showcase games that it can definitely fill up and definitely create a much better experience than what it is with the Rose Bowl. I mean, there's nothing I have against the Rose Bowl. I've been there a couple of times, but I know that it is not easy to get out of that stadium, and that stadium in terms of overall stadium experience is literally nothing compared to what you would get at SoFi Stadium. In fact, pretty much every stadium in the country, it might not even come close to the experience that maybe people would get if this game would have took place at SoFi Stadium. Now, moving on, there is a report suggesting that Nashville will move back to the Eastern Conference. Now, this I think is going to be the case, and this really shouldn't even be a report. I mean, we knew this was going to be the case when Nashville decided to move to the Western Conference, and knowing St. Louis is coming into the league next season, and that them potentially being in the Western Conference, Nashville was going to move back to the East. I mean, it was always just going to be a temporary thing, and it seems like that this indeed is going to be the case. But obviously now that means that it does create a little bit of an unbalanced conference, and that's kind of one of the thing that there was question of the fact that, if Nashville isn't going to move back to the East when St. Louis comes, does that mean we'll have 15 Western Conference team and 14 Eastern Conference team? Well, the answer is no. It seems like it's going to be the other way around, and again, it makes sense why Nashville needs to be moved back to the East. Nashville is clearly not a Western Conference team where they are based in, and that it has created a lot of problem in terms of logistic and travel for Nashville. Although it's kind of interesting, despite the fact that they have to travel the furthest out of most of the Western Conference team, they've done very well on the road for the most part. But I think a lot of that has to do with the style that they play, and also the fact that they need to do well on the road if they want to make it to the playoffs. Consider I mentioned many times the struggle at their brand new stadium in Geodis Park has definitely been evident. Now, moving on, in the next news is we had a retirement that happened today, and it was actually just announced an hour ago. Shea Salinas has officially announced his retirement after not the 2023 season. Let me correct that. It's actually this season, and really he's going to be retiring after these last two games that the Quakes, of course, will be played. But yeah, this is definitely another end of the year for the Quakes, and really kind of the end of the year in terms of the Goonies Magic kind of team, because Shea Salinas was definitely part of those team back in the 2012, 2013, and 2014 season. And as much as it is sad that he has now decided to hang up his boots, it was eventually going to happen. He was not getting a lot of minutes, and he was really getting up to that point where retirement was definitely a possibility. But yeah, certainly he will always remember alongside with Wando as a San Jose Earthquakes legend. And I won't be surprised that, I know Wando is eventually going to get a statue. But I would say Shea Salinas deserve it too. I mean, even though I know he is not going to be as a well known name in terms of success as Wando has always been, I think Salinas has always been well loved in the fan base, and I think he definitely deserved to have a statue right next to Wando. So certainly congratulations of his retirement, and again, I'll probably do a career video about Shea Salinas, and definitely also have to do a career video about Chris Wondolowski. I know I promised you guys I was going to make it, and I was going to do it, I think, back last year, but it feels like maybe I'm gonna hold it until the end of the season when I'm finally going to kind of do these career video and talk about some of the legend in MLS. And then speaking of MLS, lastly, MLS have announced nominees for the 2022 End of the Year award. So they have announced the nominees for the MVP award, the Goalkeeper of the Year, the Defender of the Year, the Comeback Player of the Year, and then of course the Coach of the Year. Now there's a lot of nominations, so I'm not gonna go with talk about every one of them. But when we get to that point where there is those final free kind of nomination, that's when I'll talk about who potentially win. And let's not also forget that I am going to do a video to talk about who deserved each of these awards at the end of the season. I would probably do it at the end of the regular season too, because I think with how the end of the year award works, they don't actually care. They actually stop voting after the regular season. They don't carry into the postseason, and of course for a good reason too. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below in terms of the few news that we had in this past week in MLS. And as always, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.